What's going on, guys? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are the Action Guys. No more of that nonsense where I sing it or say some stupid thing.
Oh, what are you don't call yourself stupid, man. That was super cool. I loved when you did that.
I know you did.
Nope.
I'm so sorry to let you down.
So sorry to let you down, General. First of all, I think first and foremost what we got to do is a big welcome back to Big Daddy Cody Hall now, because he's a dad.
Yeah.
I don't just call him that.
Andrew goes around the office calling him Big Daddy. Everybody else is like, it's weird, man. He's been doing it for 2 years.
It's been 2 years now. When I finally found out he was going to have a child,
yeah,
I felt my moment had come.
Yeah.
So, it's a big day for you.
It's finally justified.
Yeah. Thank you, Cody. You understand.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm honored. Cody's still in the booth. I'm still here. Almost a minute.
Yeah, that's almost 60 seconds longer than anyone else has stayed in the booth.
Yeah, this is like that game, Charlie 40 Hands.
I don't know. Oh. Is that? I remember that game.
I heard it in that song once.
Did you ever play Edward 40 Hands? It's Edward 40 Hands, by the way.
I'm very white. I don't know how that works.
It's not good. It's where you duct tape 2 40s to each hand, and you can't unduct tape your hands until you finish them.
So everybody pisses
Everyone pees their pants. It's a great
Cody,
game.
you ever played that game before?
No. Was that a test just to see if I was still here?
Yeah.
You asked me? Yeah, okay.
It was.
He's obviously entertained.
Yeah, he is.
He wants to hear
what do we do? Yeah,
shout-outs.
All right, so we had a couple things are coming up. First of all, we got Rambo Last Blood coming out this next week. You and I are going to go see the screener this Wednesday. So on Action Movie Anatomy, we covered Rambo 08. And it got us thinking about today's show.
Which I started thinking, this is the greatest movie deaths of all time.
Yes.
And we don't have one on here from Rambo. What the is wrong with us?
I think that's the inspired one.
Oh.
I think it's we talk about what inspired the conversation because Rambo 8 is so gnarly. I think we each pick one from Rambo 08, and then we go into that.
So my thesis statement on that episode of that show we did was that Rambo 08 is the most grotesquely violent mainstream action film ever made. And it is. It's an upsetting film. If you watch it from just a pure what is necessary to put in a movie sense.
Nothing, but most things in that movie do not belong.
Cody, have you seen that film?
He's gone.
Damn.
We was doing so great, Dutch.
So we are going to be talking a little bit about Rambo 08, which it's sweet that it has the same distinction as Batman 89, where because it's just the name of a character, you have to add the year after. It's the unofficial title.
Yeah.
People always call it Batman 89, but it's just Batman.
I know. I actually referred to it as Batman 89 earlier today because I think we're going to cover it on AMA very soon.
Oh, yeah, it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I know why it's coming up.
Because I think what we should just do is just cover 89 the week before Joker. Since we're going to cover Joker at this point.
I feel like that's what's in the outline.
Yeah. Well, we have a hyphen because we weren't sure if Joker was going to be good, but now it just feels like whether it's good or not, or whether we like it or not, we have to cover it.
Right. It's a hot button film. It's a button that's hot.
It's a button that's hot. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, me neither. So that is today's episode, guys. It's the most memorable movie deaths of all time. There are so many. Honestly, this episode, I feel like I want this episode to be 4 hours long.
I know, and it's like weird because it's kind of like a bleak topic, but it's also an awesome topic because deaths in movies can be such a huge moment, whether it's happy, whether it's sad, whether it's just badass. So we've got a big list here. We've got our top 10, but we've got a lot of honorable mentions. I'm excited to do this, honestly.
Me too. So one shout I want to give before we kind of get into our socials and all the different things is big salute to the brand new general in the Action Army. It's actually a returning general. We have Brienne Chandler, Miss Movies herself, has come back. She's come back to the clan.
She's come back to the dark side.
She's here with us now, not in the studio. That's just Statham. Only him.
Let me out.
But Brienne is back, so welcome back, Brienne, and we salute you, so thank you for that. If you guys want to follow along with what we're doing, you can find us at Team Action Show on Twitter, Action Industries, everywhere else. We got a Facebook page, a YouTube.com/Action Industries, and if you want to find me personally, you can find me at Ben Bateman Media.
You guys can find me at Andrew Guy, and just to kind of piggyback on what you were just talking about, patreon.com/Team Action is where you can find all the respective tiers, generals included. We do a generals bunker before every single live stream that we tape, and we do it before the Action Guys. So there's about 5 live generals bunkers where you can get some FaceTime with Ben and myself in a much more intimate setting, if you will. We talk about whatever the generals want to talk about that day. We sometimes, usually always before this show specifically, we talk about what we're going to talk about on this show. We get some input from them, which we do have on our lists. But yeah, patreon.com/Team Action is a great place to kind of follow along with everything we do. And with both the teams and singles tournament coming up, the action reactions are coming back. We'll be giving all of our behind-the-scene reactions to our matches in the Schmodown tournaments.
Yeah, the Schmodown tournaments. Drew and I are both competing in teams. I'm competing in the singles tournament, so those start to air pretty soon here. So even if we were to lose literally all of the matches to start the tournament, there would still be 3 losing reactions to do.
Yeah.
And if we win
Those
every
would
single
suck.
match, including all the tournaments, one of us beats the other, goes all the way to the end. That's like 10 or 11 matches to react to. So there's potentially a lot of behind-the-scenes goodness to talk about. Go check that out. Become a patron today at the $5 level or above. It gets public to everybody, and I think even at the $2 level. And then we do these streams also where we shout out our patrons. So that's we do a handful of those. So.
Yeah, we've actually started doing Twitter shout-outs as well. So a lot of really cool things to get involved with at patreon.com/teamaction. And without further ado, we are going to get into the Action Guys discussing the most memorable movie deaths. Now, this isn't the most gruesome, and these are not in horror films. The reason why is because sometimes you'll see a death in a horror movie that will be memorable for, I mean, not the wrong reason. It's because it's incredibly gruesome or gnarly or painful or whatever it might be. We figured we would take those out of play and go for more action, drama, even family movies. So I think we should get into, you want to do our honorable mentions first?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great idea. There's just so many to talk about. I feel like we could do this for literally hours.
Literally hours. I do want to start off with Cody Hall. Big Daddy Hall.
Big Daddy Hall. He's in the booth. He's just not talking.
Yeah, he's listening. He didn't actually know, because he's been gone since before New York Live. He didn't know about our video with Will Forte in it being MacGruber. Also, that whole video's up on youtube.com/Action Industries of us doing our live show, doing the live singing, interpretive dance, and of course Will Forte's video. But he said, the first thing he said when we asked him goes, "Oh, MacGruber." He goes, "It's cunt at the end when he's peeing and fuck you, dude." And then and then the van blowing up filled with killer stoppers. So a big shout to Cody for
Cody Hall, brand new,
mentioning MacGruber,
brand new dad, and always bringing it back to one of the greatest films of all time. So some of the honorable mentions to shout out. I mean, there's some iconic ones here. Obviously, Return of the Jedi and Star Wars both have big moments.
Yeah.
When first of all, the first time you watch Star Wars and Obi-Wan dies, I think it's a very memorable moment. Strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Obviously, Vader throwing the Emperor over the edge.
And then Vader dying.
Is amazing. That whole sequence is great. The chest burst in Alien, the torture scene in Braveheart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and then if you want to go with ones that are like from movies that are a little bit more, I guess, lighthearted, if you will, you can even go Castaway when he loses Wilson.
I'm sorry, Wilson.
I'm sorry, Wilson. I'm sorry.
Well, it's so sad. I rewatched it recently, and he sees him, and he tries to go get him, but he can't get there, and he sees the boat
He's
floating
gonna die.
away.
Yep.
And oh God, it gets me.
It's magnificent in the sense of what Zemeckis did and what what Hanks does as an actor for you to actually feel that attached to a ball.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's really, the movie's kind of insane.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I did a rewatch of it like maybe 2-3 months ago, and I hadn't seen it since theaters, and it always gets brought up as like one of those it's like this weirdly famous movie.
Yeah, I think it was just because it was like Tom Hanks. It was a movie where you were getting just Tom Hanks acting.
Yeah.
Like by himself.
Yeah, and it's like, I think the idea of that movie was before Lost came out as a show. It was before, like, the whole concept of an airplane going down and you being stranded on an island by yourself for long enough to like learn how to survive. Like, there was just something about the idea of pulling that off like authentically, so it felt real.
Right.
And it feels real. He has to, like, when he knocks his tooth out, like,
oh God, that scene that could have been in there. Just the death of that tooth. That really stuck with me. Other ones on here that we really want to talk about before getting to our main list. There's American Psycho when he kills Earl. Isn't that his name? You stink. You smell like shit.
It's not Earl.
Or
It's
not.
Al.
Al. It's Al. Yeah. Al.
like
You stink
shit,
like
Al.
shit, Al. When he kills him, when he kills the dog, is like super intense. Also, Rocky IV when Apollo dies.
Throw the damn towel.
Throw the damn towel. There's that, and then I think that's most of them. We did mention the one from Drive last week that was really
The wrist slit?
The wrist slit from Brooks.
Yeah. It's sweet. I mean, I think there's a few others. I think just talking about some of the most famous ones. Platoon, Willem Dafoe getting shot as he's running towards the helicopter
with the arms up.
Yeah, that's the one. That was when I watched that the first time in high school. I mean, that really stuck with me. I love that movie, and that scene's really effective. Supposedly in that scene, the packets started going off, I think, before they were supposed to.
Oh, so he just had to
the blood packets, but the shot was so perfect and it had worked. They just kept it. So I think it's like they start going off before, and I think they
And then he
change
starts
it.
to react or something.
Yeah, something like that.
God, I love Defoe.
He's so sweet
Movie's so classic.
And then Tropic Thunder makes fun of it. He does like a million of them.
And then I think the last one that I want to talk about beforehand, just because the movie was so iconic for us, was Seven.
Yeah.
There's there's usually two that stick out to everyone the most. And I think there's the sloth scene with the dude in the bed.
Right. He's alive, but barely.
Yeah. And then obviously he dies shortly thereafter. And then the lust scene, the big thing.
Leland Orser is the actor, right?
Is it?
I think so. He's the guy who's the bad guy in Bone Collector.
Oh, even just thinking about it makes me uncomfortable.
He's wearing the thing.
Yeah.
It shows the picture.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God.
Yep. It's
But there's like, they're all pretty sweet. I mean, Gluttony is really good too. When
Yeah.
like the stomach burst from eating.
Yeah,
And he keeps
and
feeding him.
even the one where he has to like cut off a pound of his own flesh.
So savage.
So gnarly.
Yeah, the last one on here that I wrote down because it's one of the most famous deaths in movie history. Resulted in an Oscar is in Deer Hunter, and it's the Russian roulette scene because there's two of them in the movie. I've always said this about that movie. Like, I think that movie's did not age that well, and
Yeah.
most of what's great about it is the relationships. But really, it just comes down to the Russian roulette scenes. There's two of them. The first one is when they're they're in the prison or in the camps, and they're having to play Russian roulette against each other, and they're freaked out. And De Niro's like super tough, so he's handling it really well. But Walken is like kind of losing it. You can see it every time he clicks. He's like laughing and crying at the same time.
Right.
And then at the end of the movie, when they've all gone home, De Niro has to go find him, and he's gone back somewhere to just keep doing it because he's crazy. And that's when he dies, in front of De Niro. And it's a great
You
scene.
mean in front of Walken?
Walken dies.
Walken dies in front of De Niro. is what you're
Walken
saying.
dies because he's kind of lost it. De Niro's kind of stayed tougher. It's one of those movies where, like, as the times change and as things go on, Vietnam as a topic is not really something that people talk about or care much about now. But back then, in 1978, like, it was so recent. That movie mattered a lot. And that scene, the idea of sort of all the PTSD these soldiers had experienced. So that's a very, very, very memorable moment in an otherwise, very famous movie, won Best Picture. But
Yeah, and there's also other ones out there, like the Gomer Pyle one.
Right.
There was ones from, some of our generals talked about Ed Harris dying in The Rock. You got De Niro dying in 15 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there was any other ones from the generals specifically that stood out.
Mac loves the death of the one guy from Hunt for Red October.
Oh, yeah, the guy who just wanted to go to Montana.
Yeah.
Yep. And obviously there was a couple people in there that mentioned there was like three of the generals. I think Andrew Hayes, Jeremiah Morris, and Mac all talked about A New Hope and, of course, Return of the Jedi.
Some of the ones on our top list here did make it on their list. So I think we'll jump into these and start talking about it. I want to remind everybody here, before we get into the main meat of the episode, if you're listening to this on audio and you're curious what we look like, we aren't fawn. We're not satyrs. We're men. And you can find us on, we've been accused. No, I'm kidding.
We have been accused.
You can find us on youtube.com/Action Industries. We have the full video version of this show that goes up there every single week. So like, subscribe, comment. And if you're watching this and you want to go support Collider because they host this show and they give us the opportunity to do this, go check it out. Download. You click download so you can listen to it while you're driving. Leave your comments. You can find us on the Collider Podcast Factory feed. So I think first and foremost, we'll jump in. These are not necessarily ranked. We're just going to kind of jump around. But we'll jump in with the newest one on here, and that's 2017's Logan. It's the end of the film, and Logan goes away. It's not the newest one on here. Andrew has used his telekinetic skills to explain to me that I'm wrong. But what is it? What is her name again? What?
The Shining Shooter.
So the ending of Logan, what's magnificent about this death is that you go into this movie knowing that Logan's going to die.
See, I don't know if I did.
Really?
I planned, I think I had expected it, but like, I didn't read Old Man Logan. I can never really think, like, even when Endgame was coming out, I was like, there's maybe a way they make people live and this just keeps going on forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we knew something, it was bleak times most likely coming.
Right. And so you go into this film and it opens up, and I think there's a lot about this movie that just does so much for us. The first thing is in that initial scene when he wakes up in his car and they're stealing his rims, or his tires or his rims.
It's like, I think they're trying to steal the rims.
Yeah. and he like tries to get his claws out, and the one claw gets stuck.
Yeah.
And they're just shooting him.
They're just kicking the shit out of him.
And you can see that he's older and he's slowed down, and then it's the most violent Wolverine stuff you've ever seen.
Ever.
Slicing guys' arms off.
Oh, the head stab. Like,
Yeah.
in the theater, I was just like, ugh. Like,
Yeah.
that's the sound I made.
It was insane. And I remember it's happening, and you're like, wow, okay, so that's what this movie's gonna be like.
Right.
And then as the movie's going, and he's getting more and more fucked up, because there's a scene when he's on the table after he's gotten into the fight with X-24, and that makeup is so crazy.
I literally know this movie needs to win the Oscar for best makeup and effects, because that ripped, shredded rib cage was out of this world gnarly.
He's lying on the table, and like you can just feel it. You can feel he's getting there. And then the final Berserker scene, when he takes the green shit and he starts running and goes crazy.
You're like, this is it.
Sweet.
Well, because you see him battle X-23 before that, he just gets manhandled, like just ruined.
24.
Or X-24, yeah.
I think 23
She's
is a girl.
23. Yeah. And it's just it's absolutely crazy. So then, he takes the green goo. Don't take the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
Of course, he takes the whole thing at once.
And one more time, and you fist pump, and he just goes crazy.
You get the bellow, the roar, the flying stab.
And he goes, and the final scene, I think the final battle is not my favorite. I don't actually like the final fight that much, because I think the kids, the powers, and the way they kill the bad guy, they're kind of lame. Like,
right. It's just not
whatever. And him fighting 24, it's all right, but the silver bullet is eventually what. Anyway, when Logan goes down and he has the moment, in his death.
When he when 24 essentially crucifies him on that log.
Yeah.
That's insane.
You're like, there's no way he's coming back.
No, he's done.
And and then she says, "Daddy," and that's what that feels like. And then I continue a lot of these deaths to the death through the end of the movie, because I think in a lot of cases, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, it's important the stuff after, because like the stuff after this, the funeral and the
T or the cross.
When she takes the
X.
cross to an X, and you see the kid holding the Wolverine doll. There are no more guns in the valley.
Yeah.
All that stuff. It's hard not to cry when I watch it. It's such an epic death, and it makes for what I think is the greatest superhero film ever. I think Logan's the best.
Still, you have it as the number one.
There's been some pretty amazing ones, and you'd be hard pressed. Like I can make arguments now for a bunch of others. Did you start crying talking about it?
I am crying.
I love that. I can make arguments for others, including this next one we're going to get to, which was that should have been the first one I mentioned, because it's actually the newest film.
It's Tony Stark dying in Avengers Endgame.
I'm Iron Man.
Iron Man. Snap.
I rewatched it on the airplane 2 weeks ago.
Loved it, right?
Yeah. So we saw it together the first time, and then I saw it again a week later
separately. Yeah.
in theaters, and then I didn't watch it again until this on the airplane, because I liked it, but there was a lot of stuff that I don't know. It just didn't feel as like I didn't immediately want to go rewatch it again after I had seen it twice.
And there's also just a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. So how did you feel watching it again? Did you watch the whole thing beginning and end?
No.
No.
I loved it, but what I did is I skipped the majority of the time heist. Pretty much from the second the time heist starts through the time that Tony sees his dad.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I skipped. And I only had enough time on the airplane to watch about 2 hours and 5 or 10 minutes of it or so.
Right.
So I skipped like 40 minutes in the middle. And I actually think while those scenes are great, and they're great the first time, they are the part of the movie that feel the most like I don't need to watch this again, because they're gimmicky, because it's a lot of you're throwing back to old stuff, you're recreating scenes. There's a lot of humor in there. Whereas like the ending is epic, the first hour is epic, and when he has his moment at the end, Thanos says, "I'm inevitable, and I am Iron Man."
And you realize he's pulled a quick one on him, and then based off of what's happened to anyone else that's ever snapped, because the Hulk has already snapped, right? He snapped earlier, and
his arm
ruined
is
him.
He's
so you're like, how is this man? Tony Stark is not a superhero.
No, he's just a man.
How is he going to do that? And you're like, he's not. And it's that look. Excuse me. It's that look. I talked about it on the show. It's the look that he gives Doctor Strange, and then Doctor Strange just holds up the finger, and you're like, oh no, this is it. This is the one. This is the one in 14,065,000 whatever. The one. And then he snaps, and then just to credit you on what you were just talking about, it's the afterwards, right? Like the funeral at the beach or the lake house, you get the video with I Love You 3000, and like his video is so good because there's something very what's the word I'm looking for?
Melancholy?
Yeah, there's a lot of melancholy, but there's like the verb of it being melocomedic. No, but anyway, so it's pretty melodramatic. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. But the way he acts it out, you can just tell. It's like he knows. He does such a great job of still being Iron Man, but being Iron Man that knows he died.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think so too. There was a scene that supposedly was filmed. Well, it's not supposedly.
You told me about
I've
this.
seen it, but what ended up happening was he dies, and then each of the Avengers, one at a time, takes a knee, like on the battlefield.
Oh.
It shows each of them like at a distance, like they take a knee to like pay their respects. And the reason they cut it, I think, is because the funeral feels like it's doing that already.
Yeah, I think I would have felt a little too gimmicky is not the right word, but I know what you mean.
Just redundant.
Yeah, redundant.
But it's such an epic death, and it makes you just realize how well groomed Tony Stark's hair has been through the entire. No, I'm kidding. It is though. It's immaculate.
His hair is miraculous.
When he shows up to the facility with Cap's shield in the fast car, and he's like standing there talking to him, you're like, this is what happens when you're like in your mid 50s and your hair is thinning, and stylists are like,
right.
we're gonna make you look like a goddamn his hair is like perfect. It's like it's so clearly styled and like blown up with a hair dryer.
Coiffed, as they say.
Perfect. But anyway, long story short, he dies there at the end, and you have Spider-Man, Mr. Stark, and Gwyneth. You can rest now. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. All that stuff, and Happy. Your dad loves cheeseburgers. I'm going to get you all the cheeseburgers you want.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, all that stuff is just really, really good. That movie kicks ass. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think to go from something that was very, very kind of inspiring and happy, we'll go to the other side of it with something that's just pure evil. And we're going to go to the 2006 film. You like that?
You knew.
It's the year that it came out.
Look at that.
Because it won Best Picture in 2007. Directed by...
No, that's actually incorrect. It came out in 2007.
No, did it? Oh, it's 2008?
Yeah.
Perfect. It's No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
I mean, he wins Best Supporting Actor for being Anton Segura, but the very first time you see his lunacy, if you will, like the craziness in his eyes, is that incredible strangling. He's like, yeah, sir, yes. What does he say? Yeah, Sheriff, we got him all tied up here, blah, blah, blah. Like, it'll be, it's the guy on the phone, and then you see him slowly stand up from behind him.
Yeah.
And also, you see how goddamn big he is. Because the guy's sitting down, and he comes up, and he puts the handcuffs around his neck, and then just picks him up and chokes him out.
And this is one of those things that I think... It's one of those things that I think you have to respect directors who are willing... Because, when you execute a shot like that, you not only do you have to concept it and then storyboard it.
Yes.
And shoot it, and then edit it, and shoot it multiple times. So, like, what's so memorable about it is his eyes as they're bugging out, the crazy in Chigurh's eyes, and then the guy's boots.
Yes.
And the way they're scratching up the ground, and it's like, it's great.
All the marks.
And, like, to envision, like, beautifully how that will look is something that, like, as an artist, you have to just be willing to be like, I'm going to put myself through the ringer watching this guy murder someone over and over again and think about this murder over and over again to achieve just what I want so the audience gets something, and it stuck with us.
And that's a moment where you look at the Coens and you're like, this is why you guys are true artists, auteurs of what you do. Craft, like the craft behind that, the shot, the shot from above, and then, of course, when it's all said and done, it mainly just shows what you're talking about, all the scuff marks on the ground. It's something you never think about, right?
Right.
Like, no other movie's ever thought of that, but a million times someone's been strangled in a movie. And that is why it sticks with you. And then also, of course, like his hands are all, or his wrists are all bloody and messed up because that's exactly what would happen. And yeah, so that is a very, very intense one.
It's very melancholy. In fact, a lot of these are really melancholy. Yeah, but I guess we'll have to just keep going through.
Keep going through the death,
these melancholy ones. I think we can go probably to one we've talked about a lot, just because we have talked about it a lot, and I think it's worth talking about again. And it's my favorite death on this list, and it's the death of Boromir.
Give him a moment, for pity's sake. I know that's after Gandalf, but that's my favorite Boromir line.
Oh, the Gandalf death.
Yeah, the Gandalf death is great, but he doesn't actually die.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
He goes through fire and brimstone. You might as well just take this one.
You can take it.
I'll
let you do it this time.
All right. So even though Ben loses
I'm going to take
shit
this one.
All right, go ahead. Even though Ben loses his shit over this one, this is arguably one of my favorites ever in movie history as well. And you've got, I always forget, Lurtz. Lurtz.
Yeah.
So you've got Lurtz, and it shows him with his gigantic, like menacing looking bow and arrow, if that's even a thing. It just like looks dark and
it looks
evil
like the Rambo bow.
Yeah.
It's almost as menacing as the Rambo bow.
A heavier pullback. And Boromir's already done his thing where he's tried to take the ring from Frodo and he's already lost. He's lost you. You're not a fan of Boromir anymore, but he has his redeeming moment where he wants to save the little hobbits, protect Frodo, and he goes out. Fast forward just a little bit after he ruins a couple people, but it's Lurtz's arrows once they start landing into him. And I think there's like 4 total.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
the first ones, the slow motion ones, were just like, vroom,
It
you
hits
see how
him.
thick they are.
They're big, and Boromir, the look on his face is like he takes it, and everyone pauses because they're like, our hero's gonna go down.
Yeah.
We all know it, and Boromir sees it, and he knows it.
Yeah, he's like, that's a kill.
I think he sees
is a
it.
kill.
I think he sees it at first, and he first is like, the shock.
Yeah,
I'm
the blood
stronger than
rage.
this.
Yeah.
I'm stronger than this. I can fight past this. And then the second one, I think it's by the third one when he's sitting there and there's that look in his eyes.
Yeah, he's dying.
He's like barely breathing in, and there's that look of like, this is my life is flashing before my eyes, and he's like, can't believe it. And then just as the last arrow's about to go into
He drops
his
to a
head,
knee. He drops to his knee, right? And then
Yeah.
Lurtz walks up. He's about to headshot him with a bow and arrow.
and then Aragorn comes in, and he's like, I am Viggo Mortensen.
These hills will be swarming with orcs.
Boromir, you fought bravely.
So,
And Bean's like, I should have been cast as Aragorn.
no, but I got it first.
But I was cast as the role because you look evil. I don't look evil. I'm the representation of a man.
He destroys Lurtz.
destroys
Aragorn
him.
destroys Lurtz, but then, again, you talk about the fallout, the moments after.
Boromir, you fought bravely. No, it's we were making fun of it, but it's so good when he says, Boromir, you fought bravely. And he's like, I would have followed you into Mordor, my brother, my captain, my king.
My captain, my king.
It's so good. It's
Yeah.
so good. It's I've seen this scene a lot now. A lot. And we've talked about it on here a lot. Like prior to doing our shows together, I hadn't watched this movie in probably a couple years, but just on rewatch, it's just so clearly my favorite part. So it's amazing. I'll let you take number 5 here, probably the darkest one on here.
Yeah, this is one that it's just one of those ones you watch, you're just like, holy fuck. And that's really the only words that can come out of your mouth. And
Yeah.
It's one from a movie that I actually adore, American History X. And
Yeah.
it's the curb stomp in the very beginning. And the reason why this stands out to anyone more so than a lot of other deaths, it's because of the setup. So you've got the dude, and he's out front. They're like robbing his truck or whatever, and the Norton goes out there with a gun. He's going crazy, but it's when the guy bites the curb. You hear the sound of teeth meeting concrete. And
Yeah.
everything else is silent.
He says, put your mouth on the curb, and the guy doesn't. He
Yeah.
says something else again.
Yeah, he says something else,
Yeah.
a little bit less polite, and he bites the curb. The concrete again against the teeth. You could just, and then the stomp, like the hardcore, like pull back stomp. And I think,
You think he's dead, or do you think he's just like seriously
he's
injured?
dead, dude. I don't think
Because
he
you think
can
it's
live,
a jaw thing? Or
he steps on when you stomp on the back of someone's head on a corner.
Right.
Feels like there's like
break
a
his
neck
neck,
break
maybe, or-
yeah. And I can't remember. I think it's his brother. I think it's
Eddie Furlong?
It's Eddie Furlong that reacts. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly. It's been so long, but I'm pretty sure he's the one that sees it, and he's just like, he just goes like catatonic,
Yeah.
essentially, because
Yeah.
it's so messed
I
up.
actually rewatched the scene pretty recently. I saw this movie back in high school.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched it since. I always thought it was good. I always thought it was like, that was good. I for whatever reason, I just never wanted to rewatch it.
And then Norton, when the cops come,
Yeah,
he's got
yeah.
his hands on his head, he's shredded.
Yeah.
He's like the most yoked you've ever seen him, and it's just got this crazed look in his
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah.
And that, for some reason, has always stuck with me ever since I was a kid. And I even heard about the scene before I saw it.
I think one of the things I remember is he gives him this look. He looks at him when he's putting his hands
guy-
on his head,
Oh, yeah.
and he like does
He's-
that with his
yeah, he's like-
eyes.
he's like, oh, well.
He gives him this look that's like pretty cool, right?
Right.
That's kinda what the look in his
that's
eyes is.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And you're just like, fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, that one stuck with me for a while. What do you got next?
We'll go next up. God, just so many sad scenes on here.
I know.
We'll go next up with another Best Picture film, the film you thought you were referencing when you talked about Best Picture 2006, and that is The Departed.
Yes.
And it's coming out of the elevator, because there's actually 2 death scenes in this movie that are both pretty sweet. You could go with Captain Queenan getting thrown off the building.
Yeah, that one's intense.
Yeah.
But this one was shocking. The
Yeah.
whole world stopped.
Because you just could not believe this was the direction they were taking the movie. He gets out of the elevator, and it's I'm pretty certain the actor is James Badge Dale. I think is the guy. I think that's the guy. He's in a lot of stuff. He's in Iron Man 3, like he's in all those movies. And he's the other rat, and he's confessing to De Niro. Isn't that who it is?
No. De Niro.
Or sorry, not De Niro. To DiCaprio. Isn't he? Isn't that?
So no. So it's him that kills DiCaprio, but it's right after DiCaprio says like. It's when Damon's in the elevator and he's like, just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me.
Right.
And then as soon as the elevator door opens, it's a headshot to Leo.
It's James Badge Dale kills him.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, Damon goes and kills him and Anthony Anderson.
Yeah.
Because he's the ultimate shit weasel of all shit weasels
of all
in the
shit
world.
weasels that have ever been.
And I'm so glad that Wahlberg kills him at the end. It's such a good one. He's just like, all right. And then he just shoots him in the head.
And he's got the bags on his feet and the shower cap.
Yeah.
He looks like such a dunce, but he gets the last laugh.
Yeah, he does. And you're also like, he's a cop. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
This one was just pure shock value. It felt like Leo had finally gotten out of it. He'd gotten away from Castle, or I mean, not Castle. What's his name? Frank Castle? No, that's that's the Punisher.
That's the Punisher.
Frank Costello. He gets away from Costello. Costello dies. Like it seems like he finally caught up with Damon. He figured it out. You're like, yes, the good guy's gonna get away.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a happy ending.
Yeah, nope.
And then the headshot.
And then Colin
Unbelievable.
takes him out.
Yep, Colin Sullivan.
Sully. Yes, Departed, classic. We're hovering around the same years here. We'll jump into the next one here. This is 2007 again, and this one is, I think, one of the most upsetting murder scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
It's incredibly disturbing. I think the other thing that about it that's so disturbing is that you know it happened. That's the other thing, is nothing else on this entire list has actually happened in the sense of people with names in places that were killed this way specifically.
Yeah, and this is who knows if it was really like this in the movie that you see.
Yeah.
But it's David Fincher's film Zodiac from 2007, and it's the murder by the lake.
Yeah.
It's early on in the film. There's this couple and they're out there hanging out, and
there's a man watching us.
And you kind of see this guy darting behind trees. And he approaches them, and he kind of is questioning them and asking for their money, kind of.
And the guy's kind of he wants them to go away at first, and then they see he has a gun.
And you're like, it seems like maybe they'll get away because it doesn't seem like you can't. And then he hogties them and just starts murdering them with a knife.
Just stabbing them straight in their very, very exposed bellies and backs.
I think the girl is getting something, and she turns over, and then he's going to the back. It's just so. I think
it's upsetting.
It's I think it's one of the most terrifying murder scenes I've ever seen because it feels so. I mean, that's a credit to Fincher. It's the pacing of the scene.
Yeah.
It's the pacing of it. It's the way he sort of envisioned the beats. He wants to show you all these different moments.
And them having to tie each other up and then it not being good enough of a knot and the whole thing about it. Again, you think they might get away with it, but oh God, it's just rough.
It's an
the
upsetting
movie's
film.
so good, but that scene itself is very hard to watch. So let's go to some family movies. Let's go to some animated movies. Those will be fun, right?
Yeah, this will be great.
Cool. How about good old 90s Lion King?
1994, the biggest animated film of its time. One of the deaths that I think sticks with most kids. I would say this death is our generation's Bambi, right?
I bawled my eyes out in the theater. I think me and my mom both were bawling when this happened.
And it's because there's a lot of things going on that are so important. I think, number one, James Earl Jones is such a good Mufasa.
He's good.
He does such a good job as this character. And, you love him. You really love him, especially as a kid. He feels like he could be your dad.
The coolest dad, the most noble dad.
He's and he's so powerful and
the helplessness of Jonathan Taylor Thomas. As the kid,
and he's scared. He doesn't know what to do. And then Scar, and the moments after, Runaway Simba and Never Return.
Never Return. But it's the actual, the claws in, the look up. No.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, the throw off, and then obviously the kid seeing his dad die. I mean, it's just, a lot of the other ones on the list are pretty gruesome.
Right.
This one's a kid's movie, so it can't be that gruesome, but it is absolutely devastatingly heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's one of the sadder things I can ever remember watching in a movie. I would say we didn't really count these down in order, but I would say of the next two, because one of them is a kids movie. and the other one is definitely not.
Yes.
I think let's go with number one here. Let's go with the SPR.
Yeah.
I love that we're the only people that abbreviate things with 3-letter phrases, but we
Like,
just
no
use
one
them.
calls it that.
Nobody calls them that.
Nobody calls them that. No one calls it SPR. Yeah, so Saving Private Ryan, I mean, God. Giovanni Ribisi's death is absolutely
Actually, his might be
heartbreaking.
sadder. That's tough. They're both really sad.
So that one I think is sadder.
Yeah.
This one is more memorable because I mean, think about all the deaths. You got Ribisi's death, which is just devastating. You've got even Vin Diesel's death, which is very, very sad.
He
He's
needs some water.
bleeding out there, and then
He's thirsty.
But this one specifically with the Hitler or the Hitler Youth knife that even Adam Goldberg talks about earlier in the movie. He picks it up and he starts crying.
Yeah.
And of course, the piece of shit bad guy, the one guy you hate more than anyone in the movie.
Yeah.
He comes back. He's got the knife. Upham does nothing in the hallway. He's just sitting there like a sissy doing nothing, and the slow knife to the chest.
I think it's the saddest. There's so many things going on in that scene, right? Like it's the fact that Upham does nothing, and it makes you feel like that's real. Like he is scared.
He's too scared.
He doesn't belong here, and he doesn't know what to do, and he can't help.
He just stands on the stairs.
I think it's sad. It's just the whole scene is so sad, and it's so like. Yeah, I remember my dad saw this movie before I saw this movie, and my dad used to love to spoil movies.
Really?
That's what he would do. He'd just explain the entire plot to you.
Well, listen, son.
He'd be like, let me tell you about the movie. So there's this soldier, and he tells you the whole movie. He just explains everything that happens. And he explains, I remember him explaining this scene to me. Because my dad took me to see.
Yeah, he loved. Yeah,
this was 1998. I was 10.
Exactly.
And so, and then I remember seeing the movie myself, and just like it's really sad. I'm actually. So Adam Goldberg is in Running with the Devil. He'll be there tonight.
Oh, dude,
I might actually meet him tonight.
You should, and you should ask him about this scene because everything he does, like the slow, like the catching his breath as it slowly goes into his chest.
Yeah.
And then like again, when he leaves and he just walks past Upham on the staircase, you're not a threat.
Yeah.
You're nothing.
He just lets him live.
He just lets him live. And then Upham kills him later, which is also kind of like, God, I hate you, Upham.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one is absolutely devastating. But this one is, I think, actually the true number one of the whole list.
I think so too. It's because it's sad to everyone, and it's a movie that everyone would watch.
It's the next one up.
Nice.
See what I did there?
It's the ending after I think the first 7 minutes of Up. And Up starts, and you see these two kids, and they're infatuated with each other. They're adventuring, and they're going to go to Paradise Falls.
They have their jokes with each other and the
and
things they do.
And they're making a book, and as they get older, and they have their first jobs, and then they're getting older, and their health's not so good anymore, and they keep wanting to go to Paradise Falls, and then finally...
They're walking... It's the silhouettes of them walking up the hill.
I'm going to start crying.
Same hill.
And
she stumbles.
And she stumbles, and they don't ever get to go to Paradise Falls together, and then she's in bed, and it's the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's because I think the reason this one is more sad than any of the rest is that we were all kids. We've all had grandparents and parents. We've all, for the most part, depending on your age, lost someone you cared about. And the older you get, the more this scene hits you, because the more you recognize the mortality of ideas and dreams and how much you want to do things in your life, and some of what you get to do and a lot of what you don't.
Right.
So I think there's this like melancholy nature of watching them realize they never did the thing they wanted to do most.
The one thing, the literal one thing that they had been talking about, saving for, but then life happens.
And then she says, "Go have a new adventure." And it's just I
want to cry.
It's the saddest thing that's ever happened. So yeah, it's the saddest movie there is.
It actually is. I think it actually is. Like literally everything else we talked about on the whole list didn't actually hit me the way that this is hitting me right now, to where I'm like, I need to keep it together. We're on camera. The show's almost over.
I want to go call
I
my
just
mom.
wanna call my mom. Call my girlfriend. Yeah, it's the saddest. And if you guys can think of a sadder movie death, let us know, because I won't be watching that movie, because truly even now when you go back and watch Up, it still makes you cry.
That's why it's the best Pixar movie.
Yeah,
it's because of that scene. Inside Out has a pretty strong vote, and then there's some others in there that are really great, but Up's the best one, and it's because of the scene.
It really is.
It's the thing that it's like a game changer for this movie.
His name's Carl, right?
Carl,
It totally puts him...
Fredricksen.
Yeah, you completely understand him. You're like, well, I'd be pissed off too.
Carl Fredricksen and his, was it Effie? No, that's not her name.
Oh, the wife.
Yeah.
What is her name? I can't remember.
Yeah, Paradise
Yeah.
Falls.
Man, Paradise Falls. And he gets there. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
So it's a happy ending at least. But guys, that is our list of the most memorable movie deaths, our top 10, and of course the honorable mentions. I feel like we got some good ones in there.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. I feel like we could have done this as almost 2 episodes because I could have expounded on a lot of the rest of them, and I'll bet you
Same.
there's 25 we forgot. I'll bet you there's a ton.
Yeah. Especially from older movies, because we didn't have. I mean, what the oldest movie we talked about was Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deer Hunter, like Star Wars. But yeah, guys, there's a lot that we did get to talk about that are awesome. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm not sure if we'll be back with another episode next week. We're working on that right now, but we'll definitely be back the week after that for sure. Be sure to check out the full episodes on Action Industries. And once again, subscribe, like, comment. Thanks for all your support here on the Collider Factory feed.
Yeah, and I guess probably in a couple of weeks we might be doing the definitive ranking of Rambo movies, but we'll see.
Maybe. Rambo and Rocky combined, I think.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Seems like a fun one.
But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out, guys.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.